Hi, folks. I'm Lee Ritchie. I am a parent and a children's minister. I serve at Ardmore Baptist Church in Winston-Salem here, and I wanted to welcome you to our first part of 3 about how to talk to your child about race. And this is a 3-part series. So I don't have all the answers here. This is me searching for how to talk to my child well, and then maybe how to share some resources with you. So since I don't have all the answers, I will not be the expert here, but I do know that there is an important starting place. And for me, that is right with Jesus. So I believe that Jesus would be working for racial justice here, that this is the work of Christ followers, and this isn't about politics. So we're going to set that aside. This isn't about this side or that side. This is about trying to be where Jesus would be in all of the hurt and the pain in our society right now. So if you read the Gospels, every time you see Jesus, you see him with those who are hurting. You see him with those who he's helping them to see their own reality and the systems that they live in. And then he shines God's light on that reality to help us see a little differently what's happening and how it's about God's love and how we might work with and on behalf of others. So the work of the gospel is what this is really about for me as a parent and for me as an individual. The good news is being with, caring for, and working alongside those who are hurting and those who are oppressed. So that's where we start. That's where we find ourselves today. I do have a disclaimer. What I share today will be resources that I have found that have been helpful for me in trying to figure out how to navigate this conversation. I have not scoured every inch of every website, and so I cannot speak to what everybody believes about every bit of whatever, but I can say that the pages that I share, not the entire website, but the pages that I share have been resources that have been helpful for me in trying to figure out how to navigate this important and challenging conversation. So with all that being said, I want to tell you, parents, we have an opportunity here, and it's a big opportunity that's right here, very present in the forefront of all of our views. If it hasn't been before, it is very much now. So, our children are seeing in our town, they are seeing on the news, if they are reading, the newspaper. I don't know if the children read the newspaper or not, but they are seeing and hearing lots of different things about what is happening in our nation. And just as all children do, when you don't want them to hear a conversation, they are overhearing when you as a parent or you as an adult are processing what all is happening in the world around you with another adult. They're soaking it in. And so I want us to remember that we have a great opportunity to talk to our children because it's already right here and they want to know some answers. So I do want to encourage you to make sure to be honest with your child. And here are the reasons for that. We really would love to shield our children, and I get that. I don't want my child to see all of the horrible things that we have continued to inherit and perpetuate in this world. But if we don't talk about hard things, then several things happen. Our children think that we either don't know about hard things, and then they can't come to us with hard things, or that we don't care about hard things and they can't trust us with the fears, with the questions, with the doubts, with the challenges that they're facing. And so we do need to make sure to be talking to our children about what is happening in our world, because we want for them down the road to remember that they can still come back to us. Okay, so a couple of years ago, I was invited to go to a Sunday Bible study class of adults and talk to them about how to talk to their children about sex. And so their children were like 3 years to maybe 4th grade. And we talked about how you start talking about sex early because you talk about your body and your different body parts, and you talk about potty training, and you talk about good touch, bad touch as they prepare to go to preschool or as they prepare to go off to school. You have all those conversations so that they learn to trust you, so that they learn that they can come to you when something happens, and that they can ask you questions when they're curious about something, and so that you can be prepared for that big hard conversation so it doesn't feel so hard when you actually have to have the sex talk, right? Okay, so I want us to think about it, this conversation about race and racial injustice in that same way. We talk to our children about race early on. We're planting those seeds so that we can continue the conversation over time. So when children are little, we talk about skin color differences and hair differences and different abilities and disabilities of people. Children notice all of these differences, and we ought to be talking about them and celebrating them because God made all these people, and we can talk about what beautifulness there is in all of these people, in all of these cultures, and just in all of these people that God made. So we talk about differences, and then maybe when your kid comes home and says, somebody said that bad word to another kid, you can go, wait a minute, we need to talk about this. But you've already laid the groundwork of, yes, there are different people, and some people don't value others as much. And so they've learned things that aren't okay. And so then you talk about what's okay and what's not okay. Why? Because Jesus has called us to something better. Jesus has called us to care about others and to see one another. And then you're able to have harder and heavier conversations about racial injustice and the systems that are in place and the hard, heavy things, and how we might speak for what we believe, how we might work to make some changes. And so, it's just that spectrum, just the same as that sex talk. You also need to be having that kind of spectrum of race talk, like talking about differences so that you can talk more about race, and about hurts so that you can talk more about injustice and the heavier pieces. So I want to share a few resources with you. Here we go. I'm going to share all of these in the links, but this is from childrenscommunityschool.org, and it talks about what each age group from 0 to 6 and up have experienced to do with race. So I'm going to just read this first one for you. At birth, babies look equally at faces of all races. Okay. At 3 months, babies look more at faces that match the race of their caregivers. Well, that makes sense because children know that their caregivers will give them the things that they need. And so, of course, they would be looking to those faces. So it keeps on the continuum of, or the timeline of age. And I can't tell you that I've researched each piece of this, but what I can tell you is my experience in children's ministry and as an educator says that these are the progression of what children notice and what children are capable of seeing and understanding. So I encourage you to look at that. The ParentQ.org has an article that says 4 questions to ask yourself before talking to your kids about racism. And so different ways to think about how you prepare yourself for talking about race. Okay, and then this last one, strivingparent.com, and this is the top 5 reasons well-meaning white parents do not discuss race with their white children. Now, this one's a hard one to read because this author is angry and tired of how people of color have been hurt, and so this white author is calling for action. And so read that from that lens, but also know that even though this is a bit of a hard read, it's still reminding us what is important. And so what is important? Remembering that, yes, we do want to shield our children. I do not want my child to know all of the hard things happening in the world, but I do want him to trust me, to be able to come to me with hard conversations, to know that there are things that are happening in this world that are not okay, and that Jesus is calling us to care and to take action and to listen, and to know that He and we as a family can work to make a difference. Those are important things. Also, if you think about it, my 7-year-old hasn't had to have all these conversations because he's in a white household. Well, children of color have had to have all these hard conversations. And even if we don't want to have these conversations with our children, we must, because their friends at school are having these hard conversations. And we want to know and we want to care because Jesus did, because Jesus saw everyone and walked alongside those who were hurting. So my prayer for you this week is that you will sit with God and pay attention to what you are seeing, where you are hurting, and hurting on behalf of others, and how you might begin the conversation with your child. We'll be back next week with more conversation, with some more resources, books and movies, and other things that might be of help. Hope you have a great week.